Fourth girl problems. I'm moving the computer. This will not be a problem for me. Thanks, Sarah. Yes, I want this down on the ground. Down on the ground. Thank you. Oh, I bent my book. All right. Yes, seriously. Good morning, everybody. Thanks. Okay, I want to start by giving some thanks. I want to start by thanking the Lord for this opportunity and the precipitating events that sort of made or facilitated Denver asking for some information about this. And this is where we are, because we have now seen the revelation a couple of times. I probably won't refer to it. I have it in my binder, but I don't know that I will read it regularly. So thanks to the Lord for this opportunity. Thanks to Lacey and Wendy. Seriously, can't even imagine what this was like, putting it on, coming to these decisions and everything. And they did so much of everything before we even spoke. So I really, really appreciate what they did. I appreciate Marin, Marie, and Nancy. Those presentations were awesome. The slides were great. I immediately made requests for them, and I got the ones that were available, and I want to thank them for sharing those with me because they were very helpful to me. And I want to thank you all. Well, I also want to thank everybody who participated in the comments and stuff on the discussions, because those were very, very helpful as well. And then I really, really want to thank you all for coming and acknowledge that this is a terribly unknown territory that we are in. And it is the first, and I really appreciate all the effort that you've made, whether you drove near or far, flew from across the ocean, as I know there's at least one person who flew across an ocean to get here. And I really am grateful for whatever it is you did to get here, and whatever you will do to share this information with the people you love for whom this is relevant. The other thing I am extraordinarily grateful for are these words. And if another dispute later arises from other women's councils, and there is a need, call another conference of the women and resolve the dispute by the voice of the women's conference as often as need arises. I am so grateful for that council, because to me, that is the greatest gift we have been given, is the recognition that we will absolutely need to do this again. And there is no shame in that. There is no condemnation in that. And there is nothing at all that we should hesitate about doing this over and over and over again. So I am so grateful for that part of the revelation, because that's so much grace. That is gathering over and over and over again. You are my children, and as long as you are attempting to knit your hearts together, do this and come together and reason over and over and over again. All right, so the next thing I want to say is I have an enormous amount of empathy and compassion for those of you who have been on women's councils or have peripherally experienced all of the ripples from that. I have never done that. And truthfully, as I stand up here now, I don't see that being in my future. Not because I'm trying to shirk my responsibility, Sarah, because I'm not. I just don't know that I'm a good candidate, just given the dynamic of my world and the way I'm living. So I don't know. I'm just, as I stand here now, I don't know that will be in my future, but my heart goes out to you guys. This is going to be really weird. Because if I start to cry, it's because I am so sorry for what you guys have gone through. I'm so sorry that this has been something that you have been felt called to do, and I am grateful that you are willing to do it. I read every email. I read every question. I read every story. I read every context. I listened to every comment that came through. And what I have realized is that people are taking this very seriously. And I am very grateful for that. What I also realized is that there is a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of anguish, along with coming together, some reconciliation, some good things. So I do realize that both is happening, but I want you to know I empathize, and I can hardly imagine. I can only imagine what it has been like for you. And so I think in that vein, I think having read all of those questions, looked at all of the contextual stories, listened to the Zoom conferences, listened to the responses, read the revelations, I believe this is a really important part of the revelation. All my revelations are intended to guide you. And therefore remember that I have told you that I have suffered the Constitution of the United States to be established to maintain the rights and protection of all based upon just and holy principles. Holy. And that I established the Constitution by the hands of wise men whom I raised up for this very purpose. The abuses and mistreatment of mankind by unjust governments needed to end, and the principles adopted in the Bill of Rights were intended to secure the protection of those accused of transgressing the laws of the land. The women should consider those protections, as they decide how to conduct councils involving those accused of transgressing the laws of God. Okay, I will interject here that I feel both completely and wholly unqualified, WHOLLY, to actually be up here doing this. It was a revelation not given to me, mind you. And so I thought, whatever. Which is really sort of what I thought. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Those poor women who have to organize this conference. And I really didn't think much about it. Wendy and Lacey reached out to me, and I probably took way too long to get back to them. Because again, I was just like, okay, la-di-da-di-da. And then we had some conversations, got this stuff going, and I sort of started being serious. I don't want to say I started taking it seriously. I started being serious. And it was interesting what my process was, because I didn't have a plan when I started. I just didn't really know what I was going to do. So obviously I utilized the resources that they had, which were the emails that were coming in, the questions that were coming in. And I started to take that material, and I took Sarah's material. She was kind enough to provide me a copy, obviously. And I'm just going to show you really quick. I took Sarah's document, and for my own purposes, I just turned it into this, okay? Basically, it's everything Sarah said. It's just in an outline. So for me, it's just this. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with some ABCs and some 1. I mean, just a really typical outline format, right? I took notes on her document that I had printed out. And so this is what I came up with from the Lord, stuff we have already been given. This is how small and concise it can actually be, okay? Pretty, not much, but, there's a lot in there, okay? So that's the first thing I did. The second thing I did is I started taking that. I took the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the due process, and then I took all of your questions. And I started thinking, okay, what falls under this category? What's repeat? What's this? So I then created a different document, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then I actually took all of your questions, and I sort of went through and answered them myself. Okay, so they weren't really answers. That, some of them would be, wow, this must have been hard, or I may have put something in like, this is answered in this revelation, or I may have put yes, or I may have put I agree, or I may have put, what would due process look like? I have to be honest with you, a lot of the stuff you guys wrote, the questions, I put reality versus perception. Okay? I have tons of questions that say reality versus perception, right? Because that was somebody's real life experience. That's the question that was born out of their real life experience. But I could have been in that exact same position and not felt that at all. So not everything is objective, right? So I really, really, really tried to pare down the things that were objective. That was, and I, like I said, I didn't have a plan. I just started doing this. It sort of filled in the times that I wasn't working or didn't have something else to do. And it just sort of evolved into this, okay, what is objective, not subjective? So that was kind of where my brain was going. The next thing I want to add really quickly is that I have a very, very different relationship with this material than you guys do. And I don't know how to explain that. It is just because this is my husband, okay? It is just because I am living this information. I am living it in real time as it comes out. Many of the things that come out for you have been things that we have been discussing for decades. And so I am not being, it's not a water hose for me. I am not being, hosed off by a fire hose. When Sarah talks about this huge outpouring of information, right? I mean, the 10 Talks was definitely an outpouring of information, but to be perfectly honest, it was pretty much nothing I hadn't heard before, right? It was just all put together. So my relationship with this material is not at all like yours, which I think is the piece that makes me uniquely qualified for this, because I do not live this information the same way you guys are living it. And that's just a fact. I don't know how to explain it any better than that. Also, not to brag, but my absolute distaste and loathing for this role is also a good reason I'm really qualified, because I would literally rather be doing anything in the entire world than being here doing this. And I think you're all great, and I love you, and I hope, much like Sarah, that this turns out to be a point at which we move forward, okay? Now, having said all that, I have to clarify something. Wendy did a really, really great job of relaying my answer to you about whether this information is binding. That is pretty much exactly what I said to Wendy. So whoever heard it, she asked me this question. One of the first things we talked about is there's a lot of women calling up or emailing asking, well, if we don't go and we don't vote, are we bound by this material? Or the vote, or what happens? And I said to her, well, that's a really interesting question. But I want to clarify what I meant. So I'm going to start with a couple things. If anything is voted on in this conference by a majority, it is binding. And I will quote the Revelation. It says, let the women learn to come to agreement, and the voice of that conference decides all matters raised in this conference that you guys decide you want to vote on. And I remind you that the majority of those who vote decide the voice of the conference of women. If 100 vote, the vote of 51 decides the matter. What goes on in this conference as to voting is binding. What I was actually asking is, what is at the heart of asking that question? It can be any number of things. The first being genuine curiosity, like, right? Are we going to be held by this? Is this binding? So that's on one end of the spectrum, like real curiosity. The other end of the spectrum is, and here's the weird thing. You can ask my kids, I have never said anything like this in my entire life. So when I utter these words, I'm pretty sure these words came from the Lord. So on one end we have, are you just genuinely interested to know? And on the other hand is, do you have poison in your heart? Now, I have never said poison in my heart. in my entire life. It's not even a phrase that resonates in my vocabulary. I might call you all kinds of names, I might judge you, I might do all kinds of things, but poison in your heart has never been anything that I have said. So you are either genuinely asking if you are going to be bound by this, or you really got to self-reflect and figure out what's going on for you, okay? Agency is a God-given endowment. It's not free, okay? Let's get rid of the word free, because agency is anything but free. Because every choice you make has a consequence, for good or for bad. So there's nothing free about agency, and yet it is one of our greatest gifts, okay? I am free to choose whether I obey, comply, respect, take accountability, act honorably, any of those things. I have absolute freedom to do that, or not. I have never once voted on a law that I am responsible for obeying. I watched this video the other day of this woman in Georgia who opened up her door to a couple of police officers who were arresting her because she let her 10-year-old walk down the street. Okay, now that woman probably didn't know that law even existed, certainly didn't vote on it, and yet here she is in the wackadoo world we live in, being held accountable for letting her 10-year-old walk down the street. She didn't get to vote. She had no idea that was a law, right? So the legal system is the mechanism we have to deal with people who just decide they don't want to obey the law. And that's fine. It's great. But I think in the case of something like this, we don't have that. No one's going to knock on your door. No one's going to tell you you can't or you shouldn't or whatever. I liked what Marin said about that all-girls college. It is an honor code. Are you going to walk out of this room, whether you were 49 or 51, and say, I'm going to honor that because that is what happened in this conference? That is up to you. So when Wendy said, she just said, yeah, you're free to choose. You can do whatever you want. I genuinely mean that. You can do whatever you want. I can't do anything about that. If you don't want to be honorable, you don't have to. If you have poison in your heart, you have poison in your heart. If you're just genuinely curious, you're just genuinely curious. But I am not your judge. I am not your jury. And I am not your Lord. So you get to decide. So that was another thing, poison in your heart. I love that. Wow, so kind of stark. I'm going to take a drink too, but it is not water. Okay. Next section. As we move into this next portion, okay, which is going to include some of the stuff that I finish with, and it's going to include these roundtables. I want you to think about a few things. The accused, okay, we can use whatever word we want, the man, the accused, whatever. I want you to envision that person as your husband. And some of you have this real lived experience, right? I want you to envision him as your husband, your son, your father. Because there, but for the grace of God, go you. If you see these people as your people, and they are people you love, people you are married to, people you gave birth to, people who are your family, then you will increase your empathy and compassion, and you will decrease your objectification. Objectification is when you make them the other, that guy, the accused, the one who did that. Make no mistake, ladies, the people you love are not immune from this. The questions I have read, the emails that you guys have sent in, no man is safe until women do what Sarah said, calm down and rise up. So you need to see these people. You need to see these men as your husbands and your brothers and your sons, so that when you look them in the eyes and you are asking and talking and reasoning and counseling with them, you are seeing a loved one. Someone that you not only love, but absolutely is loved by God. Okay, I'm going to read you a little story. It's called Some Days I Flip My Lid. Okay? Bear with me. I know you're not Max. I know you're not an 8-year-old boy, and I know you're not going to school. But what I want you to listen for is I want you to listen for what's happening to Max when he's feeling different emotions, okay? My name is Max, and I'm 8. I am in the 3rd grade, and some days are great. On the days that are great, my brain feels right. I had a yummy breakfast, and I slept through the night. When my brain is just right, I can listen and learn. I'm okay in school, and I don't feel concern. But then there are days that don't go so well, because some days I flip my lid. Flipping my lid means I lose my cool, and my learning gets tricky when I'm in school. This can happen on days when I don't sleep just right, because I tossed and I turned in my bed all night. I toss and I turn when I'm worried or sad, embarrassed, confused, or just plain mad. When I flip my lid, things happen to me that can change how I learn and listen and see. My face gets blotchy and my body feels tight. I say mean things and I sometimes fight. My knees get wobbly and I can't breathe. I want to run away, or sometimes I freeze. Do these things ever happen to you? Do you flip your lid? Do you lose your cool? On days when I get mad, I flip my lid and fight. It's never okay, and it never feels right. When I fight, I'm like a tiger, and I'm ready to spring. I roar with my words when my friend wants the swing. I really don't like it when I fight. My brain feels tense and my fists get tight. After I fight, I still feel mad. So flipping my lid only makes me feel bad. My mom says tigers aren't allowed in school. She says I need to be calm and cool. Are you ever mad when you're at school? Do you flip your lid? Do you lose your cool? Some days I flip my lid when I'm confused or upset. I sit on my seat and I worry and fret. On days like this, my brain isn't okay. I just want to run or fly far away. Running away is also called flight. I do this on days when my head feels too light. When I'm in flight, I'm like a balloon. I soar high and free. I bounce in the air above the tall trees. I really don't like it when I fly. When I settle back down, I just want to cry. After a while, my balloon shrinks and pops. I'm still confused and upset, and the worry won't stop. My mom says balloons aren't allowed in school. She says I need to be calm and cool. Are you ever confused when you're at school? Do you flip your lid? Do you lose your cool? Then there are days when I'm a little afraid. My belly feels jittery and it doesn't go away. When I'm afraid, I just want to freeze. My heart starts to pound and I'm weak in the knees. When I freeze, I'm like a snowman. I don't make a sound. I'm stuck in the frosty, frozen, cold ground. I really don't like it when I freeze, when my belly feels shaky and I'm weak in the knees. After a while, when I thaw back out, I'm still scared and worried, and I just want to shout. My mom says snowmen aren't allowed in school. She says I need to be calm and cool. Are you ever afraid when you're at school? Do you flip your lid? Do you lose your cool? I know if I fight or freeze or I run, my learning in school isn't much fun. I wish I could stop flipping my lid. I wish I could be a calm, cool kid. Then one day, Mom and I took a walk, and we sat by a pond and we had a nice talk. She told me we all have days when we're sad or scared or worried or just plain mad. She said flipping my lid is not a good way to learn to grow in school each day. Mom taught me a new way to deal when I fret, so I won't flip my lid when I'm scared or upset. It's called mindful breathing, and it's pretty cool. It's a way to calm down when I'm at home or school. Mom said it's a choice if I fight, run, or freeze. I can choose calm and cool whenever I please. The trick, she says, was to notice and see when I start feeling mad or shake in my knees. She told me to notice when my eyes start to close and then breathe on purpose right through my nose. Breathing on purpose is simple and neat. It helps me relax, and it can be done in my seat. It's one mindful way to help me feel safe. I can do it whenever, anytime, any place. Here's how I do it. Here's how it's done. It all begins with breath number 1. I'm still while I breathe. That's part of the fun. This helps me settle so I don't want to run. I focus my eyes on just one place. I breathe in and out while the red leaves my face. I breathe in and out as my eyes open wide, then my body and brain can calm down inside. Taking 3 mindful breaths a few moments each day helps me stay focused in a whole new way. Taking these mindful breaths stills my brain and my heart, which is a really good place for my learning to start. So the next time I feel like I'm losing my cool or flipping my lid when I'm home or in school, I'll notice my feelings as they come my way. I'll breathe on purpose and watch my thoughts drift away. Remember, some days are tricky and other days are fun, but no matter what, we can choose not to run. We can decide not to fight or fly away too, because breathing on purpose keeps our brain calm and cool. Would you like to try it too? Okay, we don't have to do it, but I'm going to remind you, as the day goes on, you might want to take 3 mindful breaths. Okay? Now, we're going to talk a tiny bit about what this is actually about, all right? Every single thing you feel, every emotion you have, will have a representation of that in your body. Max did a good job of talking about the jitters, the red face, clenched fists, floaty, dissociated states where you aren't really thinking, okay? So we need to pay attention to those. We need to pay attention to how our bodies feel when we are communicating with our parents, our spouses, our family, our children, right? This is every day, all day, okay? We have a physical manifestation of how we are feeling. And women's councils, certainly, this is a huge issue, all right? So what is happening is you are leaving your prefrontal cortex. I'm going to give you a little visual, okay? Everybody hold up your hand, okay? This is your brainstem. This is your limbic system. This is your amygdala, and this is your prefrontal cortex, okay? So this is called Dan Siegel's hand model of the brain. Super simple, okay? All right, you got a brainstem. You got all this stuff going up in here, and you've got all of these sensors going on in here. And your amygdala is this thing, that's your limbic brain, that's your reptile brain, where you start to feel all of your heavy emotions. Generally, you're going to get dysregulated back here, okay? And then your prefrontal cortex is right here. When you are activated in your amygdala, you decrease access to your thinking brain. Okay? So you can put your hands down. Thank you very much. So let's say I'm having a conversation with one of my children, and we're talking, and everything's fine, and all of a sudden she says something that starts to jack me up, and I get really angry, and I think she's unfair, and I don't know why she would ever say that. And so I say something back to her, and she starts to do the same. And so now 2 of us are sitting here with our lids flipped. There is nothing going on. We're yelling at each other. We may not be yelling at each other, but we're talking loudly. We might be having a very disagreement. Neither one of us has any capacity whatsoever to reason together. None. There's nothing wrong with you. Not only is there nothing wrong with you, don't for 1 minute think this doesn't apply to you. You're not special. You were created exactly the same way I was. And when our lids are flipped, we are not communicating with one another. I am not hearing you. my ears start to listen to different tones. I lose peripheral vision. There are very significant physiological things that happen to you when your lid is flipped. If you are in a conversation at a table with someone, in a women's council, with a partner, with a spouse, with a child, and your lids are flipped, walk away. Walk away. Okay? Take 3 mindful breaths. All right? Part of the revelation. Reason together and draw upon the experiences from those past women's councils. Let the women learn to come to agreement, and the voice of that conference decides all matters raised. We cannot reason together if your lid is flipped. Do your heart start to beat faster? Do your shoulders start to get up to your ears? Feel your jaw clenched, teeth tight, fists balled? Heart start to beat faster? Any of these things happen to you today? Take 3 mindful breaths. Okay? You got to self-soothe. You got to walk away. And I highly recommend you all go back and listen to Q Adolfo's talk from the Zion Conference, because she does a beautiful job about talking about what happens to us through trauma and when our brains are offline. When our brains are offline, you are treading water. You are getting nothing done. So don't waste your time today being offline. Okay? All right. Another concept I want to talk about is this concept of trust but verify. All right? I was in facilitating a parenting group a year or so ago, and I had a mom come in, and I will spare you all the details of this this mother's struggle with her son. But it was ultimately like, I don't know how to trust him. I'm so triggered by everything he does. When he walks out the door, I'm certain that he's going to end up arrested or this or that or the other thing. But this woman is really, really, really trying to trust her son, trying to trust that he really is making the changes that he says he's making. She's seeing good things. And she says to us, there was 2 of us at the time, she says to us, do I have to trust him? And this other lovely therapist said, oh, absolutely not. But I can give you something that you can work on. Trust but verify. Trust but verify, right? Okay, so let's say Adam says he's going to a friend's house, right? And she's a bundle of nerves. She can hardly tolerate the idea that she's even letting him out of the house, because the last time he was gone, the police called, they had to go pick him up. He was, whatever. So I want to go to Adam's and I want to play video games. She says, okay, that sounds great. She said, I need Adam's mother's number, because I'm going to call. I'll call in about 20 minutes to make sure that you're there. I can't believe you. I can't believe that you're going to do that. Yeah, I know. Sucks. Sorry. But this is the step. This is what we're going to do. Trust but verify. So Adam goes. He's playing at Zach's house. They're playing video games. She calls. Mom says, yeah, he's here. She's like, great. That's awesome. So there's this process that we trust and verify. I hear a lot of women talking about trust, trust, trust. Trust, we have the revelations, we have the scriptures, that's all we need. It's going to be fine. All we have to do is trust each other. And I say, we are not inherently trustworthy. That is just really not the way the human being is made, actually. So I highly recommend this lovely book, if you haven't read it yet, called Being Wrong. Adventure in the Margin of Error. Okay? Now, I just knew I was going to reference this book, and I just picked it up this morning before I left, thinking I'll grab it and take it. And I sat out there for a few minutes, and I read this book, and then Denver started to read this book, and I'm pretty sure the highlighting is him, because I don't usually use yellow, and I don't even remember highlighting this book. I do remember finishing this book thinking, oh my gosh. I will never think of anything right ever again as long as I live, because we're just not made that way. So I want to read a few things that I'm pretty sure Denver highlighted as he read it, and I don't think he finished it. And this goes to, we are not inherently trustworthy. We are not right most of the time. In fact, most of the time, we are actually, I don't want to use the word wrong, but we are definitely not right, okay? So, first quote, totally out of context, so I'm not going to explain it or anything. I just want to drop some whoppers, all right? Failures of perception capture the essential nature of error. So that's one. We are all prone to regarding the ideas in our own heads as direct reflections of reality. And this is particularly true in the domain of perception. So I will remind you again, your reality is not my reality, and therefore it is not reality. It is yours, and I can honor that, I can admire that, I can be with you in that, but as you're sitting here telling me how you interpreted this event, all the while I'm empathizing and showing compassion for you and with you, I'm thinking, holy crap, I wouldn't have seen it that way. Never. This happens all the time, okay? Perception is not reality. Perception is your reality. And I love that. All right, another one. Let's see. Wrongness knows no limits. I love that. The barometer we use to determine whether we do or don't know something is deeply, unfixably flawed. Being wrong, oh, I didn't highlight that one, so I don't want to do that one. When we ask people to look for something specific, they develop a startling inability to see things in general. I like this one. No amount of sunk costs can make an erroneous belief accurate. The more we spend on a belief, the harder it is to extricate ourselves from it. And I'm just going to leave you with those things from being wrong. Okay, with that in mind, I would like to see, okay, so this is where I'm going to go back and tell you about the document. I took Sarah's notes. I took all of your emails, all of your questions. I took the revelations. I took the scriptures. And I just went through, and you have one of these at your table. And forgive the title, because it's not really what the title means. It says, can we vote quickly/easily on the following? And I don't mean necessarily quickly or easily. I just mean, is this something that at this juncture we can all take votes, just vote on some of these things, and see if some of them are obvious because they came from the scriptures, see if the clarifications make sense. Now, this is my document. Nobody else had any responsibility for this whatsoever. I have no, I can't think of the word, like, everybody has a copy of it. If you look at it and say, no, that's fine. I have no problem with that. I am not looking for an outcome. The outcome I'm looking for is efficiency and productivity, okay? That's all. I'm not looking for this has to be done. I'm not looking to say that I think this is the only way it should be done. I just sort of, without much, I don't want to say without much thought. It took a lot of thought. But are you okay?
Yeah, I'm trying to put this on the screen surreptitiously.
Oh.
Doing it terrible.
Everybody, Wendy's down here. She's trying to put this on the screen. She's trying to be surreptitious, but she's not working that angle very well at all. Okay. Don't look. Okay, so my idea would be to start with the document that Sarah went through. And in my case, it was just this outline document that I don't think anybody has a copy of. And just all decide right here and now if we all agree to abide by the Lord's counsel. So let's just practice this, all right? Is there any second out there for anyone who would like to vote on whether we want to abide by the Lord's counsel as as presented to us and for us in the scriptures. Do I have a second? Oh, second. Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, that looks and sounds pretty much like it was the majority. If there's anybody brave enough to nay that one, please do so. I would love to come give you a hug. Jennifer? I'm not going to come give you a hug. Here. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to throw something out. I'm going to throw something out really quickly because I love, Sarah, that you identified preserving the restoration and that is definitely one of your guiding forces. Okay, we can just do this. This is not on my list, but we can do this now really quickly because I do have something that I'd like to say about this. Okay, so secondarily to the scriptures, certainly Sarah used preserving the restoration. Okay, pages 510 to 513. Is that what it was? Okay. Can we, I would like to, okay.
Specific blogs. The one on forgiveness, this is direct revelation, and the one on, that we just got in June.
Okay.
Plus preserving the restoration. That's what she used, right, Sarah?
Oh, Sarah, so Jennifer, are you talking about the extra stuff in Sarah's document that she talked about up here? Yes, okay. All right, so let me rephrase that then. Are we willing to vote on the scriptures, the preserving the restoration stuff, the relevant blogs that are the forgiveness, the on women's councils, and the June 20th as a guiding way of dealing with women's councils? Do I have a second on all of that information? Okay, so I want hands this time so I can actually see hands. All in favor, hands up. Okay, that is a majority. All right. Okay, now for those of you who vote no, the only thing I came up with, and I wasn't really thinking about the blogs, but I was thinking, I have heard rumor, and I mean literally rumor, I have no idea where I heard this, that there is a conference in the spring where they want to talk about things to add to the scriptures. Okay, that is literally all I know about it. I know nothing more. I don't know content. I don't know, but I wonder if at that point it would not be useful for some of you women who voted yes, and even those who voted no, would want to consult with whoever's in charge of that. Sorry, I can't give you any more information, because maybe some of this stuff needs to be added to the scriptures. So that is certainly a method by which that could be accomplished. Okay, so everybody who voted yes and no, are we kind of immediately satisfied about that at this moment? Okay.
Can I say something, Stephanie? I'm one of the people that's talked to your son-in-law about that possible conference. And the reason why it would be so important to put it in scripture is because what we're doing is wonderful. I love Sarah's document. I read it beforehand, so thrilled about it. But it's a document that's just random and loose. Whereas if we can get what we just agreed upon actually in scripture, then as the millennium goes on, it's in scripture and we've covenanted to obey that. And it resolves the question and accessibility to all women in the future. We know where to find what is it that we covenanted to obey, what is it we're supposed to do, instead of like Sarah that had to jump all over the scripture and say, oh, it's here and it's in the glossary, it's here, oh, and it's preserving the restoration. If we could get in one spot what we have agreed to, then we're operating on the same, like Elisa likes to say, we're operating on the same framework. So it helps to eliminate disputation because we all have the same understanding.
Okay, yeah, yeah, thank you. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's why you say, that's why you include the language of the all the revelations that are received, because they're looking forward to coming along.
Yeah, okay, I appreciate that. Okay, so I'm just going to back up for a minute. This document for me was created by using the Lord's Revelations, the blog post, because I did look on those. They were linked in the thing. All of your questions, all of the material and comments that came from the Zoom meetings, the fact that the Constitution and Bill of Rights were mentioned specifically in the most recent revelation regarding this. And so I put this together as a potential for voting on things as a group before we start discussing as individual tables. I have no expectation of agreement in any way. I am not. I hesitated even doing it because I'm very, very conscious about presenting myself as anything other than just, hey, this looks like a good idea, okay? So there is nothing about this that I am invested in. Well, I'm highly invested in it. I'm not invested in any kind of outcome. And I absolutely believe there will be no votes, and I'm good with that. My hope is that this is a document, or these things that we may or may not agree upon can be sort of that trust, the beginning of that trust but verify process. It has the potential to reduce disputations, if that's your jam. I happen to like disputations. I sort of thrive on conflict. I think it's the grist for the mill. I mean, how in the world am I supposed to become a better person if someone isn't pissed off at me and can't come and tell me? So I have no way of actually working through my stuff if you're not disputing with me. Now, I don't want to be disputed with all the time. I don't have that much tolerance. But I really do. I love conflict. I'm sorry. I do. I think it's great. But I would also like to have organized conflict. I don't like chaotic conflict. So hopefully this lends itself to that. Accountability, okay, certainly a huge thing. The trust but verify has to go both ways, right? We have to be able to be accountable to one another. This clearly deals with some due process issues, and hopefully it also is kind of collaborative. So anything that feels agreeable, I'd like to vote on. Anything that doesn't, absolutely can be something that you discuss at your tables, or you can just let it fly out of your brain as though you never heard it. Doesn't matter to me. Okay, so the first one is a doozy. I don't know why I started with this one, okay, but it's home fellowship, all right? So again, I just outlined these things. So home fellowship, and I'll go through, and I'll go through it all, and you have it in front of you or you have it up here, and you're welcome to raise your hand. I'm not going to do a lot of discussing from this place. I will just answer a few brief questions if you have them, and then if it cannot be voted on, it'll be a tabled issue, all right? Home fellowship. I believe the accused, your husband, your wife, your son, your son, your, brother, is allowed to identify their own home fellowship with the following caveats. If there are questions about that fellowship, council members are allowed to make inquiries within the fellowship. They can have the man provide names for verification, or if they have access to that, they can do it themselves. If for whatever reason a home fellowship cannot be agreed upon, the council takes place in private at a general conference. Again, language straight from the Lord. If there is no home fellowship, the council takes place so if it can't be agreed upon, or if there is none, then the council takes place at a general conference in private. Again, words directly from the Lord. Clarification of what a general conference is. General conferences are meetings or gatherings where all members of the community are invited. Doesn't mean they all attend, but they're all invited. Okay. All right. So, anybody want a second to vote on this? Do you have a question, Cammie?
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead. Thanks, Heidi. Go ahead.
So I've been dealing with this issue, the home fellowship / trying to get away from a council. And the thing that I came up with to try to address this was to find the women who sign the certificate and give them the opportunity. They obviously don't have to, but give them the opportunity to be on that council as a way of resolving that question. And I don't know how that fits with what you've got.
Okay.
But I wanted to throw it out there as a thing.
Beautiful. I'll tell you how I think it fits. I think that fits Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, she's actually going in an effort to find a home fellowship, right? If one can't be found. She is going back to the women who signed the certificate and asking them if they would want to participate on a council. If there's difficulty finding a home fellowship or finding people acquainted with the daily walk. So, and wondering how that fits in with this. So I'm going to keep them separate. That, Cami, goes to fellowship autonomy. Okay? If you're struggling finding a fellowship, an accurate fellowship, if there's avoidance of that, and you don't want to wait for a general conference, because I know that's an issue for a lot of people, like when you're waiting. I mean, we're having pretty standardly 2 to 3 conferences a year, right? And yet that still might be too much time. So fellowship autonomy would mean, if we vote, we agree on these principles, but fellowship autonomy means I'm still going to work at finding a home fellowship by reaching out to women who sign the certificate. Okay, does that make sense?
I think so. So you're saying, when you say we are going to, you're talking about the women who are potentially on or holding a council or the whole fellowship?
No, yeah, no. Okay, I would like to, I'm trying to do the minimum. I know this document may not look like the minimum, the way it's presented, but I'm trying to do the minimum, right? So, do you want me to stop? So if you're still looking for women to be on the council and you're not finding a home fellowship and you don't want to wait for a general conference, then as your women's council or your fellowship or however this particular group wants to decide, you can decide to go to the 7 women who signed that person's certificate. Does that make sense? That's your choice. Because maybe they're not living in your home fellowship. Maybe you're not finding a home, maybe you're not finding enough women in the council to do it, and you don't want to wait for a general conference. So you're welcome to, am I not explaining this? She looks very confused. Heidi, hold on. Let me go to Heidi.
I mean, I think like if I'm here, like more clarity than what you just said, Justin. So, because we're saying like, hey, like, does the man have a home fellowship? If that's the first question, does he have a home fellowship? If he doesn't, then it is go to the next thing, go to a general conference. Like, there's not like another option.
Well, okay. Oh, stop. Hold on. I'm not going to nitpick all of these, right? So truly, if this cannot be voted on right now, it can stay at the tables. But what I would say to Heidi's is that the 7 women who signed the certificate are not necessarily included in either a daily walk or a home fellowship. Okay, so I think that is a whole separate issue, right? But I believe that in the interest of just, I had a word and it left me, but just the beauty of the process, right, allows that if you want to go find those 7 women and they would be willing to operate as 1 or 3 or 4 of the 7 women who will be on a council for this person, they are neither a fellowship nor a daily walk, right? So I think in the interest of fellowship autonomy, not being completely constrained by every jot and tittle, before they go to a general conference, they can reach out to those women. Does that make sense? Okay, Okay, then keep it at the tables. You guys decide. Yeah, and let me tell you this: if you are, and I don't mean to be insulting, really. If you nitpick every single thing, you may as well walk out right now, because this is going to be a gigantic rabbit hole of stuff. Whitney. Yeah, I know that.
So then we just don't ever have council, which is fine.
Yeah, no, I mean, I gathered that by the at least 27 questions related to that very thing that were in the emails. Yeah, and honestly, I guess in my ignorance, I believed I answered that. I mean, you go to a general conference. But again, if
Okay, so to clarify, and I think that's where we're all confused, so you're clarifying by saying, if he chooses to say, Karen's not my home fellowship, then Karen can say, okay, then we'll just go to a general conference.
yeah, if the
That's what you're saying.
yeah.
That's where we were confused.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, no, if none of this works to identify a home fellowship because you have a disagreeable, any party is disagreeable to this, then you go to a general conference. And I don't know if I still answered Cammie's question, but to Cammie's question, if you don't want to go to a general conference yet, but you still can't find a home fellowship, or maybe you can't find 12 women in the home fellowship, or maybe then certainly the women who signed the certificate should at least be, inquired of if that's something they want to do. So I'm not, and I guess what I'm saying is those 7 women are not restricted to not participate by this language, right? I mean, I must say, I really do trust you women. I think you're capable. I think we have a tendency to overthink. And again, my mind works, I do not bother with minutia. I really don't. I go back to that being wrong statement. Like if I'm so specific, I can't see the general. I don't want to be that way. That's not how I want to live my life. It's exhausting. Okay? So that's just my view on kind of what this very first question is making my brain think. Tasha.
Okay, I totally understand all of that, and I like that. If you can't find fellowship, wait till a general conference. You have to choose women who are familiar with the state law. This is one area where there is a discrepancy between preserving the restoration and scriptures. Preserving the restoration just says that if a man's work deed is called into question, then a conference can be convened to deal with the question. It does not specify general conference. So I guess my question would be if we should just go with what the scriptures say with the general conference and wait for that. Some women or some instances might feel like there is some urgency. And so can we just call a conference before a general conference?
It says anyone can call a conference at any time. And honestly, the language of what a general conference is was mine. That's nowhere identified. I just figured if we could agree that a general conference is a meeting where all members of the community are invited to attend, that would qualify, right? That does not mean they have to attend. That just means all members of the community are invited to attend. I don't think you can call your council a general conference, right? I mean, I don't know that that's happening, but that seems logical to me. Does that answer your question?
That answers it. Just in preserving the restoration, it doesn't say it has to be a general conference. You can just call a conference. So we're using
Yeah.
the language from both.
See, and this is where I don't have the same relationship with this material you do because I live with the man. So I just am going to literally lose my mind at the nitpicking that goes on because I cannot live that way. I literally cannot live that way. And I'm not trying to be critical. I'm just saying when it comes to these things, I cannot, good golly, people, be sensible.
Well, this was a huge question.
I know, that's be sensible. Okay. Yeah, I know, and I really appreciate it, and I'm just going to be honest because my brain literally does not work that way. It absolutely does not, and I personally consider it a gift from God that my brain does not work that way. I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you. Okay, Cammie.
Okay, so, and I am getting kind of nitpicky in my head because I'm in the middle of this. This is what I'm dealing with the council I'm working on. But, have we ever had a women's council at a conference?
I don't know.
And, because have we?
We have, let me turn around. One thing is that I see a lot of conferences be organized, and when a conference is coming together, the conference together. And when a women's council calls up and says, can we have a council in private on the side of your council? The organizers of the conference feel like their conference is being hijacked. They feel like we're making this beautiful spiritual experience and a women's council is an emotional thing. And conference organizers tend to not really want a women's council to be part of their conference just because of the spirit involved. It's something to be very sensitive to if we're trying to do this. I don't have the answer like we should or shouldn't do this. It's a case-by-case basis, but I think we should be really sensitive to those that work so hard to plan our conferences. That having a women's council at them it's a burden upon a conference.
Okay, so I think the answer to that is no so far. I have absolutely no idea, but I don't think it has. Okay, I'm tabling this. This is at your desk. This is at your tables. Okay, we're not going on anymore. Okay, so yay! First one, nope. Okay, notification, witnesses, counsel, and attendance. Women must notify the accused of the specific charges before the counsel begins. Okay? If the accusations are of illegal, dangerous, abusive, or predatory nature, then proper authorities should be called. I cannot tell you how many women's questions were, what if he's dangerous? What if it's this? I'm like, good Lord, people, call the police. Like, again, use your brain for crying out loud. Jeez, am I really talking to you about this? This is silly. Okay, before the council is convened, the women provide the man the names of the witnesses against him with a minimum of two witnesses. Now, I know we're going to disagree with this because apparently preserving the restoration is the only place that it says two or something like that. Okay, but I'm trying to simplify and synthesize.
So we're good.
Okay, yeah, okay. Oh, great, Karen, thanks for reminding me. Oh my gosh. Whew. Okay. Every effort should be made for the accuser to face the accused, right? I know we're not a court of law. I know we're not the legal system, but it makes sense that the person being accused of something has the right to know who that is. Yes?
I know from experience that with this number two, if you are working with the law simultaneously, it could create issues on the legal.
Okay, I would need something way more specific than that.
For example, like under B, on it says every effort should be made for the accuser to face the accused. If you have a minor that has a sexual complaint against the accused, you as the mother have an obligation to protect that minor.
Okay, use your common sense.
Yeah, so, but if this is something, like, if every effort should be made for the accuser to face the accused, do we want to have specific saying,
No, absolutely not. Use your common sense. Every effort should be made. That clearly should not be made. Use your common sense. And if you're dealing with predatory people, again, call the police. This is not a council issue. This is a legal issue. Okay? And I don't mean to be dismissive, but these people should not be in our communities. Okay?
and maybe, like, counseling legally first, like, if you.
Absolutely.
Because it could, if you feel obligated to do these things first, before you're reaching out with the police, that could interfere with your abilities with your parental rights, like with DCFS now.
Okay, okay, yes, this is a lot about minors and reaching out. Again, I'm going to say this a lot, use your common sense. Okay, Cammie?
The two witnesses is also found in TNC
Oh.
27-3.
Thank you, I appreciate that, yeah. And again, don't take my briskness as not caring about your issues. I really do. I really care about your issues, but we have to use common sense. Okay, so again, every effort should be made. Zoom is certainly a plausible option if you don't want to be in person. Okay, number 2, men can be witnesses for or against. That's their only role. Okay, men don't get to make opening statements. They don't get to, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what other things men would be doing, but they get to be witnesses, either for the council, if that's appropriate, or for the men. That is their only role. When chosen and convened, disclose the names of the women on the council. Okay? Again, a man has the right to know who he is going to be judged by. I'm using these words loosely, so don't raise your hand. To be fair, a council should include as many neutral women as possible. I don't want to get into this. We are judges, juries. Karen dealt with it on one of the Zoom meetings. We just cannot be unbiased. We cannot be as arbitrary as the legal system is. So again, use your common sense. If you actually have women who are not exactly the way who think differently than you do, that's okay, all right? We're not trying to take away a man's certificate. We're not trying for him to keep it. We are genuinely coming together to weigh these weighty matters. So try and be as neutral as you can. Try and find neutral women if you can. If you can't, I don't care. I really don't. I mean, counsel among yourselves, decide what you're going to do, and maybe have that discussion within your specific fellowships and your specific councils. Okay? Council members cannot be anonymous. I just have nothing more to say than that. That seems like it seems like one of the most egregious things is to say, here we are going to judge you and you can't know who we are. And again, I don't know if it's happening, but it just feels really icky to me. So I would say that. Council members should not be removed or replaced except for an emergency on the part of the council participant. Councils can have alternates to address this issue, but the alternates have to be clearly identified as non-participatory, right? They are just called if there is need. If you are going to use your alternates as participants on the council, then they are included in the unanimity, right? They are included in, so if you have 15 in case, so-and-so who's going to have a baby goes into labor early, then, they all have to be, they're all part of the vote. Does that make sense? Okay. Oh, this one's way long. Sorry. Must provide reasonable time for arrangements to be made for the accused to prepare a defense and make arrangements to attend the council. We can vote on these smaller issues. Should we stop there? Okay. Anybody want to second a vote on any of that? Okay. Kylie seconds a vote on any of that. Jennifer, are you seconding? Okay. Okay. So we're going to stop. Okay. Hold on. Stop. Hold on. We are voting only down through C. Okay, Karen, now go.
Okay, I feel like I want to say one thing about this, because so far, I personally agree, this is what I would do. But I think it's already in the document, in what we're voting for, and I'm afraid that we're starting to
Okay, stop. I actually am going to stop you.
Okay.
It is not in the document. It legitimately is not.
But there should be some ambiguity where God is asking us to use your head. Like you keep saying, use your common sense.
Okay, these are nothing more than due process rights that are not in the scriptures, but are in the Revelation where it says, use the Constitution and the Bill of Rights to protect the rights of the accused.
I already think we have that.
Okay.
I think that we have.
Okay, time out. Who else here believes that we have that in the scriptures? Raise your hand if you believe we already have that.
Well, can I present what my point is?
Well,
How can they say yes?
I'm
Or
sorry.
no, if they don't know what I'm even
My
saying?
brain has already gone to what I know you believe, so I apologize for that. Yes.
So what I believe is that we have within what God has given us already the principles of the Constitution are eternal, right? They're from God, but they're not going to be applied. Here's our government, I'm going to stand up. Here's our government constitution. And oh my goodness, this is applying to the women. That's not how it is. How it is there are principles that contain a constitution, a Bill of Rights, and a due process. The Constitution, as we learned through the Zooms, was to grant the government the right to exist, to even have the power and authority to do what it's going to do, okay? So that
You have
parallel
90 more seconds.
the parallel that we have in our women's is that God has given us permission to do very limited with these councils and sustaining. Okay, with Bill of Rights, we have within what God has given protections for the man. I had a whole bunch, literally, I think there's 8 protections for the man that is in there. If we do what the Revelations say, the man is protected.
For due process, we have just been told by God that if there's another conflict, if there's another disputation, basically the way that you can bring up a grievance that you think wasn't handled is through calling another one of these conferences to solve the specific dispute about that conference.
60 seconds.
I believe that God has right within us the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and the due process principles, eternal principles, already in what he revealed to us. And he has said, stop adding to and taking from. Do what I have bidden you. Do not add to, do not take from. I do not want to start getting a law of Moses, even though I agree with it. I agree that we should do those things. My common sense tells me that already.
30 seconds.
But my common sense does not want a law of Moses that is going to be tic-tac, 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 because we decided we're going to keep disputing and nitpicking and going into each other's business. And that's what's going on. That's why we're here, because we're all in each other's business. And we don't.
Okay, sit down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That took a lot of guts to go against that.
Okay. Okay. Who wants to vote? Do I have a second for voting up to D? Okay, Kathy. Okay, so we're voting up to D. Basically, given those things, starting at number 2, notification. Do you, by the majority vote, does anybody vote that those are reasonable things to guide what we're doing? Okay, everybody, hands up if you're, all those in favor. Okay, I can't count. I need a counter. Yeah, well, I need up first. I need up, yeah, because I have absolutely no idea where we're at. Yep. Okay, I am really trying to streamline this process, because if you're, and I'm happy to sit down, but my thank you, 26. My plan was to vote on as many things as could be taken off the table quickly. That was my only plan, right? Yeah, and then everything else can be so you can see already, home fellowship, that's at the table. You guys can spend all day on that. And you might, because that's a big one, right? So my only goal was to see how quickly we could get through this, because it's 11:30, right? Okay, 26. So nay, everybody, every nay, raise your hand so Maren can count, because she's.
I'm counting everyone now.
Oh, okay.
There's 73.
We counted the people. Okay, unless someone is left.
Okay.
You guys can count the yeses and the nos.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you have to do yes. You have to do yeses and nos. Okay. To vote on notification, witnesses, counsel, and attendance up to C1A. Yays, raise your hand, please. Hi. Yay. Okay, Wendy and I are over here. Did you get Wendy and I?
41.
Okay, all right, 41. Nays, please.
Stephanie, to clarify, a nay means we want to talk about it before we vote.
No, this is a vote.
Means we're saying no.
I think maybe we should vote how we feel about that. I personally would like to talk about these before we vote.
Okay,
I feel like that would be helpful to kind of get a sense of the table. I understand efficiency. I like efficiency, and I like everything here, but I just feel like at least maybe we could, I don't know.
okay, I am absolutely flexible. Okay, I'm done, okay? All of this is at the table. You can work on, hold on, I mean, don't go, but I'm done, and that's fine. I have absolutely no problem being done, and so we're not voting on anything.
But I'm one person.
No, it's fine. You know what? I am more than happy to have a plan and then have life take over that plan. There's nothing about what you said that is offending me in the slightest, okay? Q, hang on, Q.
Okay, can I get some clarification? Because to me, when I look at this, I see this as like a policy, and policy is meant to be changed as we. Oh, is there a mic?
Sorry, yeah, it's just for the.
Oh, yeah, it's okay. It's recording. I will tell you what she says.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So again, I see this as policy, and that policy is meant to be changed as we experience it. But then I'm hearing, like what Karen is saying, it's almost like she's saying it's like law. Maybe
That's
I'm,
how I feel. I feel like we're held accountable to
Okay,
it.
I would like to stop, just one second. I want you to pull back and not deal with your fears. Okay, no, I don't want, I'm not talking to a specific person. I don't want any of this motivated by fear. Okay, Q, keep going.
okay, so I just want clarification. Is
Yes.
it law or is it just policy meant for us to experience? And as we experience these things, we can hold more of these things.
Yes.
And say, okay, this doesn't work for us.
Sure.
Can we change it as we discuss things?
Yeah, so a majority vote means that it guides you until it doesn't. And again, there's not a single person who is required to go by any of this. And if you think that it's already in the scriptures and already in the thing, then you never have to look at another document or see another thing. I really, 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 truly do not care. I truly do not care. I don't care how you vote, what you vote. I don't care what you accomplish in this meeting. I don't care what you don't accomplish in this meeting. I am just here because my husband got a revelation. And I'm just going to do my very best to help guide this. And if this is not what you want, I am okay with that. Truly okay with that. And I am happy to just turn the time over to the tables because we're well past time and I totally respect your guys' time and what you traveled here to do. So we can take it to the table. Tasha, and then Sarah.
So I like the clarification that this isn't like law, but if we could use this as a guideline as we meet, when we form a council of women, use this as a guideline, but then discuss, does this work for our council? Does this not work for our council? Then it just seems like it's not, you have to do it this way. But I think these are wonderful guidelines.
Well, and make no mistake, these guidelines came from your guys' questions. And Wendy only read you some of them. You should really read these questions. They are horrendous. They're horrendous. My goal is to decrease the horrendous. And if you don't want that, I'm fine with that. Doesn't matter. Sarah.
Well, I appreciate you reading through and this, and so, I mean, if we don't want to vote on it, let's not vote on it, but can we finish reading through it? Because I appreciate this
Totally.
discussion.
Yeah. And Heidi,
I'd like to finish the,
Okay, I will
the
quickly read
document.
through. And Heidi, I totally get what you're saying. I absolutely get what you're saying. Putting it back at the tables and discussing it. The only reason I chose to do it this way was because I knew there were 23 pages of questions, right? And so I synthesized down from the questions that I have already read and answered myself. I have an entire notebook of answered questions. I answered them myself, right? I mean, that's not for you, that's for me, right? So I just took everything you guys asked and created this because it dealt with so many things, so many of the things that you asked. Michelle.
So I just wanted to say why I like that this is here, even though it's adding to or it's not part of a revelation and it should be common sense, is because some of us don't have common sense. And so you do have to, and I like how you're saying things like succinctly and you feel like maybe you're being too harsh on people or something, but when you've been like pounded your whole life about being kind and following the golden rule and you shouldn't ever be angry, and an abusive person is totally going to use that against a person to be like, you should not do this, you should not do that, you're being bad, you're doing this. And so if you put in here, no, you absolutely need to call the police if something is being dangerous, some people need to hear that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay, so I think what we've agreed on, and I'm not going to vote on that either. No, Heidi, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm not going to vote on this either. I am going to finish reading them, okay? You have a document at your table. It is there. You can use it and the questions to round table, okay? When the round tables start, I will just kind of be wandering around. I'll be available if you have questions, if you want clarifications. If you don't need me, that's fine too. I'm just here to kind of finish this out. So let's finish this. We're still under notification, witnesses, counsel, and attendance. Must provide reasonable time for arrangements to be made for the accused to prepare defense and make arrangements to attend the counsel. Make reasonable effort to allow for scheduling. Taking into consideration all parties, including witnesses. If the accused presents multiple unreasonable reasons, excuses for non-attendance, council members can vote a majority to proceed without him. Reasonable can be decided among the council members before the council is convened. Okay, I totally believe that. If you're getting the runaround, council members can vote amongst themselves to decide to proceed with the council. I also think majority vote on your councils might be a really, really good way to solve some of your disputes on the councils themselves, right? So if you haven't been doing that, maybe that's something that you might want to implement, right? What does the majority vote of the council say reasonable time is, or home fellowship is, or whatever? And again, that gives fellowship autonomy to make those decisions. Okay, E. The council is a private matter, and women participating by Zoom should take all precautions to ensure privacy. No spectating by others not directly involved. I, under there, is hold in-person councils for as many women or men as possible, as often as possible, realizing that may not be possible. Again, no, there's no rule here. This is just, most of these are actually just suggestions. Very few of them are like do's or don'ts, right? Okay, 3, decision, retention, or removal. Removal requires unanimity. There is no such thing as a hung jury. So for those of you who think hung jury is a thing, it is not. Get it out of your head. There's no hung jury. You either vote to remove or you do not. That is all. There's no such thing as a hung jury in unanimous decisions. There could be, reporting. There could be a section on one of the existing websites where the outcome of the council could be announced. This includes only the initials, minimal identifiable data of who this person is, the date, and the outcome. This prevents fellowship hopping because you can look at this resource and you can see that this person has no certificate, right? I mean, fellowship hopping, that doesn't mean he can't go to a different fellowship, but he can't provide ordinances within that fellowship. If the issues are predatory, abusive, or otherwise such egregious, dangerous issues, then the record can reflect something more specific, including a reference to pending criminal charges if there are any, because criminal records are public records anyway. Also, I checked with someone I know who's a lawyer, and there is nothing slanderous or libelous about putting initials on a website and a date that says there is no certificate. There's no slander or libel involved in that whatsoever. So the men who might be concerned about that or might be pushing back on that, it is not against the law, because initials are not an identifiable enough piece of information for anybody to lose any status in the community over. Petitioning, these are questions I have. I don't know the answers to this. Petitioning for the return of a certificate, who can petition, or other concerns. See, I didn't know that. I don't know what I don't know how that works necessarily. Some of you might have experience with that. Number 5, disputes. So this is the quoted language of the Revelation. If another dispute later arises from other women's councils, and there is a need, call another conference of the women and resolve the dispute by the voice of the women's conference as often as need arises. Plan on this being a repeated process, and that is a good thing. This forum is open to us indefinitely. This is my added commentary on this. I believe that you can call these women's conferences with 2 or 3 fellowships, right? I mean, if you are living in southern Utah and you are having some issues with some councils down there and you don't really want to call an entire body of women, although you can, I think it's also perfectly acceptable to sort of regionalize them. That's just my view, right? You don't want to not have this resource available if you believe that you have to call an entire conference, right? So that's just my viewpoint. If you all want to talk about that, you can. Due process. Okay, this is an interesting one. The accused can ask for an advocate or an assistant to support him in this process. This is an assistance of counsel. This is, in the legal term, a lawyer, right? This could be someone the man... Okay, I'm not sure if this is... Okay, I actually think I changed this on a different document. Oh, no, this is it. This could be someone the man chooses and is approved of by the council, or it could be a council member who is assigned this task. Their only job is to ensure due process. Because I have read your emails, and I assure you there is a lot of unjust stuff going on, whether you mean for it to happen or not. And I don't believe you mean for it to happen at all. And yet it is happening. There are plenty of men whose rights rights are not being given him, which is separate than the council itself. It's separate from whether the council is going to take or allow him to keep his certificate. So this is one person whose job could be to make sure this process is followed. The fellowship and daily walk concerns have been negotiated justly and all parties are satisfied. 2 accusers have come forth with accusations. The accusations have been presented to the accused. Every effort should be made to have, some of this is repeat because I just put it in this thing. The council has discretion on how this is done, but should consult with the accused. The accusations could be given by Zoom, they could be written, they could be signed, right? There's a lot of variety within the way the circumstances are going or what the thing looks like. The proposed council women's names have been disclosed to the accused. If a council member needs to be replaced, the accused is informed and provided the name of the new member. Reasonable time has been given to schedule and appear, to be determined by the vote of the council as per conversations with the accused, the needs of the fellowship and the severity of the council's concerns. This takes into account the accused knows the accusations and can plan for his witnesses within the context of the grievances against him. If they're vague and broad, it makes it difficult for someone to know what they are defending themselves from. I mean, if you don't know what they are or they're so broad, that's very difficult. I've actually, I think I've seen some where it's like it's a word or it's a phrase, and I'm not sure the context of what's going on, so maybe the accused does know more than that, but I would look at that and think I wouldn't know what that meant. So, again, making sure that the accusations are clear. The accused can call 2 or more witnesses to speak on his behalf. The accused has discretion as to how these witnesses are used. All witnesses can be used as rebuttal witnesses also, which means if you're using them as a rebuttal witness, they would stay in the council. They would not be dismissed or asked to leave. And this is due process. If you choose to withhold some of these rights from the men in your fellowship, that's your choice. That is your choice. You have agency to do that. And might I remind you, agency is not free. There will be consequences to whether or not you choose to provide these due process rights to the accused. And it won't be someone taskmastering you. It will be whatever you are experiencing. Men are only to participate as witnesses. And then last, fellowship and council autonomy. Issues that arise in fellowships and councils that are in dispute can be voted on by the members involved directly. And you can just implement your own a majority rule if that feels authentic to you. If it doesn't, you can have, people who are in charge, people who direct. I mean, you can have a hierarchy if you want. Hierarchies don't tend to work. They generally piss people off. In a hierarchy, someone's always offended because they are the less than or the one who is not taken seriously. So I wouldn't advise it, but you certainly can do it. Okay, I'm going to take a breath, 3 deep breaths. Sometimes I breathe on purpose, which is another book, by the way, called Sometimes I Breathe on Purpose. Okay, I am finished, and I'm actually grateful to be up here. Thank you for your responses. You literally have to come up to me, stand in front of my face, and tell me you hate my guts for me to be at all, even remotely believe that you have a problem with me. That's how thick-skinned I am. So I welcome your feedback to each other and to me personally. I have no problem with it. If I do have a problem, I will breathe on purpose. I'll give you the flipped lid sign, okay? And I really, really, really am grateful that you heard me out. I'm grateful that you're here, and I'm grateful that you're willing to do this. And I'm going to turn the time over to Wendy.
Yes.
Is there going to be a point where we could finish hearing what Karen was trying to say? I kind of wanted to understand what she was about.
Okay.
I don't know when that's happening.
I can tell you when that is. If you listen to any of the recordings of the Zoom meetings, it's not true? Oh.
Because I have some involved
Oh, okay. My mistake. Then you can.
I'm, hear the rest of that? Okay.
Okay,
Well, what
time,
about,
time out. Then you have a conversation with Karen.
Why can't everybody know?
Because that gives Karen a forum that we are not giving other people.
Okay.
That's why. Because if we do that, then we're going to let everybody who wants to stand up and talk for 25 minutes. And we're not, that is not the way this was planned.
that's true.
Yeah.
I can
That is
say
accurate.
this, I'm a little bit frustrated with, it's just like one of the questions that one of the women had on here, and it was like, don't discuss it. The problem is there's how many different tables of discussions, and some people might not have the same understanding
Okay.
as other people.
Okay.
So, you know, I personally would prefer to say, whoever has something to say, let them say it.
Okay.
Because I would
Okay.
rather hear input. I want to hear what Heidi has to say. She's over at that table. And I want to hear, I like that Tasha spoke up. And she's at that table. And some people don't really have anything that they want to say. They just want to listen.
Yes, and so those who have something that they want to say and those who prefer to be a little bit more quiet and observe, that opportunity will be at the tables. And then after the workshopping, each table can send up a representative to kind of report back, and then we can continue discussion if needed. So there are going to be opportunities for tables to share with all the other tables to bring that together. Does that?
I get accused sometimes of being an idolatry. And I'm going, this is a manifestation of I am not an idolatry. I have something to say that I think is very important for people to consider. And that is fine to be shut down. But I think that it's worth considering, because I'm not opposed to the ideas. I think
Okay.
all of them are wonderful. But I am going on deep, deep principle of we are acting like the children of Israel who are rejecting a higher offering by God to start conducting our lives by higher concepts, and we are proving that we cannot. We are proving that we had to come together and have everything laid out for us in a bunch of system of rules. And
I'm going to take over my conducting job for just a second, truly, okay? There were plenty of women who emailed and requested a block of time. Like, I mean, anywhere from 15 minutes to 30 minutes to discuss their particular grievances. And so that, while disappointing, sad, frustrating, I have no idea the many things you might want to call it, and I don't disagree with you. That seemed like an extraordinarily overwhelming, unproductive way to use the time. Because much of it is based on personal experience or conversations that you've had with other people. And this is a reasoning together opportunity, which I, in my own brain at this moment, I'm going to distinguish from persuading. Okay? Let's take our persuading parts, tell them to calm down, maybe take them for a walk, get them a drink, tell them that you appreciate that they're here and you're really glad that they want to persuade people of things, but ask your reason parts to come up and be more active, okay? And I think it's great that you want to talk to different people at different tables. And that is certainly something that can happen as you kind of maybe finish at yours or move around. And I have no doubt that there are people going to walk out of this who are going to be frustrated, who are going to say it wasn't what they wanted it to be, who are going to be mad. I'm totally good with that. It's just the nature of things, right? But that whole I have something to say, wow, I'm pretty sure there's at least 40 of you out there who have something really, really, really good to say that's really, really important and that would really, really make a difference to this entire council if they could just hear what you had to say. Okay? I totally get that. And yet we're not set up for that. We're just not. And you know what's so cool? If you want to do it a different way, call another women's council or another women's conference. Have it any way you want it. Create any kind of format, debate, Robert's rules, the whole thing. That would be awesome. Invite me. I would love to see that. Okay? But right now, we're staying at the tables. You can discuss, and you can mingle, after you've done the thing. And This is not the end of the discussion. We'll come back up here and moderate and stuff, but we are not giving the floor to single people for 20 and 30 minutes at a time. We're just not going to do it.
I'm curious why we don't each have a copy of something that's so important like a voting book. We just have one per table. I'd love to have one on the board.
Well, that is my fault because I, in my naivete, which is usually not a word I use for myself, funny, in my naivete, figured that it was an easier process than it was. So that was really my fault. Because it is my document. So I don't exactly have an answer for that right at this moment, but it certainly can be a document provided to you. Okay.
Sorry, real quick, it is on the website.
Oh, cool.
You can have it as a PDF.
Okay, it is on the, they did put it on, yeah, awesome. See, I didn't even know they did that. Okay, cool. Stand up, do me a favor, stand up.
I'm not sure if it's me, but some questions that I've had while some people are not in. I'm not sure if we're all on the same page of what the goal is at the end of this case, when we are putting our vote.
Okay.
So if that's something that isn't very specifically clear from the Lord, or if that's something that we get to deliberate and discuss together, and it's something that we can pick up later down the road,
Right.
it would just be easier for me to understand, like, what are we doing specifically right now at the tables? And is this a conversation we can continue before the vote is taken, or does the vote
Yes.
have to take place today?
Oh, no, not at all. No, yeah, so I'm not going to answer that. I'm going to let Wendy come over. But the question is really, what is the goal for today? And I absolutely know we all have different goals. My goal, I have absolutely none. I have totally zero goals, not a single one. Wendy, you can come in and
Okay, so the format that we have set up, and I recognize that it's already noon, which is supposed to be when we're going to break for lunch, and maybe that's something we can vote on. We are going to deliberate at the tables. We're going to reason together at the tables. Like Lacey said, when we've completed talking about the issues we want to talk about, we will have a spokesperson from each table that you decide amongst yourselves to come up and speak on what you have discussed. And then we will, Stephanie referenced the Roberts Rules. That's the one place where we plan on using it, where we will have the opportunity for people, if you want to motion for a vote on something, you can at that point motion for a vote. Then, if you get a second and there are more ayes than nays to vote on it, we're voting on voting, which maybe sounds a little, I don't even know what the word I'm looking for. We're agreeing to the procedure. So we're agreeing to put something on the ballot, and then if something does go on the ballot, we will have a section of time where we can reason together as tables again. So you each can come up in your own mind with, okay, how would I vote on this? Because we've all agreed to vote on it. So that is the process that we've come up with. I recognize that it is noon and we've a lot of emotions, which is what we expected and which is what this is part of it. This is part of the process. This is a good thing. We need some sort of a break for lunch. I can see that a lot of people are invested in this and want to maximize time. What do we think? Is 30 minutes for lunch too few? Is 45 too few? Any ideas? Anyone motion for what amount of time you want for lunch? You want 30 minutes? An hour? Okay, I'm hearing more hours. Okay. Okay, 45. Any motion for 45? 45, yeah, okay. Second? Well, that was a second. There was more than one hand. Okay, 45 minutes for lunch. All in favor? Okay, all opposed? Okay, hands up if you're opposed. Okay, here's an idea. 45 minutes, and if you're 15 minutes late, that is okay. And a few last announcements. Just among us, it's only going to be women, so only women will be able to vote, and it's women, we would ask that it is women who reason together, that it is among us women that we are reasoning together. That's what the Revelation says. So no men will be reasoning on these. on what we discuss. And so when you come back, you can discuss what Stephanie has presented in her document. You can discuss anything in the questions that has been presented. And you as a table can come up with what comes up among you. Okay. Any more questions before we break for lunch? Okay, please be back at 12:49. And 12:50 is probably fine too.